join us on our very first episode of RPMMORadio, only radio station online that talks about RP and MMOs. Don't know, that's roleplay. You're actually be what you're not. So, with me today, I will be your host, Ashton Phoenix, and with me today are my two co-hosts, Sid and Will.
Hello.
And Jess.
Hello.
Stuff in the background there, but you're not. But, so how are you guys doing today? I will be your host, Ashton
I'm
Phoenix,
doing
and
great.
with me today, and Will. Thank you very much for joining us on our very first episode of RPMMORadio, radio station online that talks about RP and MMOs. Don't know, that's roleplay. You're actually be what you're not. So, with me today, I will be your host, Ashton Phoenix, and with me today are my two co-hosts, Sid and Will.
Hello.
And Jess.
Hello.
Stuff in the background there, but you're not. But, so how are you guys doing today? I will be your host,
I'm
Ashton
doing
Phoenix,
great.
and with me today are my two co-hosts, So, we'll go into it real
Hello.
quick. What is
Hello.
roleplay? And
Hello.
why would you do that in an MMO? Background there. But you're not. But sorry, I'm having. So how are you guys doing today? Some things in the background there. There we go. Always learning new things. So roleplay. Why do you do it? You know, what is it? And all that good stuff. It's like I said, it's basically just being the character that you actually want to play in a game. And there's a multitude of reasons which we'll get into later, but for the most part, it just makes the game a lot more fun. And we've all got experience doing that. I've been doing it for quite some time, as is Jazz, and so is Sib. So let's go ahead and go around the room, so to speak. And we'll start with Jazz there. So how long have you been role-playing, and where did you get your start at?
Well, I started off as a kid really enjoying pretend that I got into theater and then impromptu theater when I was 9 or 10. And then I discovered D&D and it kind of lit the fire. And then I went from D&D to LARP and SCA, which is a live action, live in the moment, like you're living back in the old days. And then eventually I wandered my way into MMOs and started role-playing with my husband originally, and then I met other role-players.
Yep. Yeah, that's exactly where Jazz and I met, was in an online game at EverQuest 2 back
2005.
God, I've known you too long. It's just sad when it's said out loud. And now for our other co-host, who is also my lovely wife, Sib. Hello, honey.
Hello.
So go ahead and give us your little blurb on the backstory there.
Let's see. I loved video games, God, my whole life. I've always loved playing them, putting myself in the whatever character I'm playing. I want to be that character. So I never really knew anything like RPing existed in an MMO until I met you, Ashen, and that was about 8 years ago.
Yeah. We were kind of in between them at the point, but part of the problem was we didn't have a computer strong enough to do two MMOs at the same time.
But he threw me into EverQuest 2, and I was like, oh my God, what is this? So it was completely alien. Didn't have a clue. So then he threw me into Wizard's World, where
Wizard
my second
101.
start.
Yeah, the kids' game.
And I had so much fun. So then we just kind of moved up and on from there to different MMOs. And of course, I met Jazz along the way. I was so jealous of her because she would RP with Ashen. And I was like, what are you doing? And then once I realized what it was and how you do it and became more comfortable with it, I love it. It's just, you can be whoever you want to be.
Yep. That
So
is correct.
that's my little thing.
So yeah, that's just a brief background on each of us, and trust me, we'll definitely be getting a lot more in depth on all of it because we've got, like I said, I've been playing games since the Atari 2600. First game I remember playing is like Moon Patrol and Popeye. So moving on from there, and we've all been playing for quite some time. You know, the reason Sib had such a weird time with MMOs with so much of hard, and of course, a game like EQ2 has button bloat.
Yeah,
5 million buttons. So,
Wizard's World was a lot easier to
Wizard's World was.
Not as many buttons.
It was a very cute game, but it was funny watching. Even in that, some of the kids would RP in that. We didn't really role play. We just played it for fun to play with each other and our kids as well. But you weren't allowed to say things like bitch in that game because it was filtered. So they, being what they are, replaced it with the word bench. So you'd be seeing people call each other benches all the time. Quit being a bench.
That's hilarious.
Yeah, they'll find a way to cuss if they want to. So let's go on to what RPMMORadio, or RPer. Oh, see how clever that is. Yeah, we're so smart. Is, and what we're going to kind of hope to accomplish, and we'll kind of set the ground rules. First and foremost, so let's go on to what RPMMORadio, or RPer. Oh, see how clever that is. Yeah, we're so smart. Is, and what we're going to kind of hope to accomplish, and we'll kind of set the ground rules. First and foremost, we're 3 adults. We're not even, unfortunately, all that much in the way of young adults anymore. So,
sadly, no.
No, those years are long behind us. As Indiana Jones said, it's not the years, it's the miles, kid. So we're going to be talking, joking, teasing each other, saying things that are probably not always appropriate, but, you know, we're here to have a good time. We're here to hopefully entertain you, to make you laugh, to make you want to come back. Would be also pretty good, but we're going to give you all the stuff that you need to for role-playing, but hopefully in an entertaining way, because let's be honest, I mean, we could do this the NPR way, and with a bunch of friends that we love.
Exactly.
And, you know, the backyard's been replaced by something in a digital computer in a room, but it's cowboys and Indians, politically incorrect, cops and robbers, politically incorrect, but somehow.
Are you gonna do that every time you say something like that?
Yeah. Politically incorrect.
Okay, good.
No,
I just wanted to clear that out. So.
I don't think we could. We'd probably have to send Bill Maher money every time we used that. So the thing is, you know, we've all got different views. Jazz has been into different roleplay than I am. I like different things than she does. Chris has tried all sorts of stuff with everybody because, you know, she's done the, Sib. We're gonna screw each other's names up constantly. Trust me. You'll learn our characters' names eventually, I'm sure. But she's done dancing and like through emotes and things like that, and I support her. But it's just kind of one of those things where you're just gonna have to, you know, take it with a grain of salt, you know. And if there's something that you want to hear talked about or you disagree with, which is gonna happen, we're not all going to agree on the same stuff. You can always email at us at rpmmoradio@gmail.com or join our Discord if you go to rpmmoradio.com. We actually have a website, almost like real people. So all those places you can interact with us. If you're watching us live, you can talk to us on that as well. But you guys have anything you want to add in the stream of shitty things that you may or may not say? And
I swear a lot.
Sorry,
I'll try
Jazz.
really hard not to, but I swear a lot. So
yeah,
I'll try not to.
Asshole, or may not say. And
I swear a lot.
Sorry,
I'll try
Jazz.
really hard not to, but I swear a lot. So
yeah,
I'll try not to.
asshole.
See, you just need to stop.
No, I figured we'll just get it started right off the bat. There's no reason to lie to people. That's the one great thing when you have to talk for an hour to an hour and a half straight. Eventually, if you're gonna be a real person, the real person will come out.
Oh yeah, definitely.
So, how about you, Sib?
No, I don't really got anything yet to add.
Yes, she's the nice one. She's the one that's played less than any of us, So she doesn't have the bitter anger, resentment that us old-timer veterans have.
I was just going to say that. She's not bitter and cynical like we are.
And I will talk to anybody. I mean, if you say hi to me in the game, I'm going to be like, hi, how's it going? Try to be nice to everybody.
Mm-hmm. And right now, I guess now that I'm thinking of it, we probably should say what we're actually even role-playing in. For Sib and I, we're just pretty much, we focus mostly on one MMO at a time. We don't have the attention span to do more. So we're role-playing currently in Final Fantasy XIV, which is a very, very healthy game as far as roleplay goes. Largely before that, we did EverQuest 2, SWTOR, Star Wars, The Old Republic. Jazz, you're in quite a few games, so I'll let you hit that list.
Well, I'm still in EQ2 because that's where I made my guild, and that's where the majority of my roleplay still. Yes, it's my baby, and it was my first baby, so it is still very much a focus. And even though I've left and played other games, I always come back. So at this point, I'm here until it dies, which is looking far more likely. Sooner destroy it.
Make everybody not want to play it anymore, which is
not just our peers. Everybody in general is just like, what? Yeah. So I've also role-played in probably every MMO that has come out that had any major hit. Aeon, I role-played there. Trying to think. Lotro, Lord of the Rings Online.
That's such a funny acronym. Lotro.
It is. Lotro.
Never have Lotro. Discontinue Lotro if urine. Blood appears in urine. Yeah.
Stop. Okay. I played AOC, Age of Conan.
Age of Conan, which apparently looks like it's been reskinned and released as Conan Exiles.
Right, and it's looking exactly actually... It does. It doesn't look physically. The environment looks roughly the same. Of course, there are some dynamics that are new.
I heard about those.
Yeah, it is Conan Exiles.
Right, and it's looking exactly actually. It does. It doesn't look physically. The environment looks roughly the same. Of course, there are some dynamics that are new.
I heard about those.
Yes,
I'm pretty sure
the infamous dong slider.
Yes, I'm pretty sure I laughed 20 straight minutes as I watched that video over and over while my sons walked in, saw what I was doing, and just turned around and walked away.
I have to say, I cringed, not because of the physics of it, but because when the guy was like crouch walking and his legs were crossing over each other, that's not physically accurate, because that right there
would result in a painful situation.
It'd be the sound of popping grapes. I'll just say
that.
You know, Ashton told me he would show it to me, the video, and he still hasn't. Yeah.
Well, I'll have to send it to
people that put balls on the back of their pickup truck. It was like that. But
actually it is. It really is.
It's just so bad.
It's just bad. But anyway, we went off on a... Yes. Let's see. Where was I? Oh, AOC. I went to AOC from EQ, and then I went back to EQ. There's two. Currently, I was role-playing for a little while in Star Wars, the Old Republic?
The Old Republic.
The Old Republic. And then I left and came back to EQ, and then I started dabbling with it again, but the RP community is hard to find, and I was really just playing it because I enjoyed the game. Which I should point out never happened until I had been playing EQ for probably 6 or 7 years. I suddenly found that I enjoyed the game. EQ for probably 6 or 7 years. I suddenly found that I enjoyed the game.
Yeah.
Because you remember my character was like level 30 for
the longest
4 years.
Well,
I didn't level her.
Most of that was because you also couldn't find your way out of a zone with a map. Which they gave you. So there was that.
I still get lost in the bag no matter what game I'm in. But anyway.
So bad. He always teases me about it too.
Oh, they're confusing. Yes. I don't care. I've also currently in Final Fantasy 14 trying I haven't really found any role play there. I'm playing because I enjoy the game, particularly the crafting. And I'm in ESO because I have some friends there. And I actually do enjoy RPing, and it's very difficult. You really have to want to do it in that game.
That's definitely one of a topic for a later show, is the difficulty MMOs place sometimes on their character or on their players. Star Wars, for example, not being able to see emotes from one faction to the other, ESO,
that was stupid.
In Guild Wars 2, after the fact, actually, it used to be just fine. Switching over to mega servers that instance everything so that you can't find people that you're wanting to, or you don't see it out in the world like I'd imagine,
right?
Which World of Warcraft, which fortunately we don't have none of us have really played World of Warcraft. So if you're a World of Warcraft RPer and you find our show, just throw us a line, let us know how it is. I've tried to look it up a little bit and see that you have quite a few servers, but I couldn't find like a hub community or anything like that overly easy. So just let us know on that, because I'm curious to see what roleplay is going on in other games there.
Yeah, the type you have to like hover your mouse over it. I don't understand why they do that kind of stuff, because it just makes everybody's life more complicated. I can see why Final Fantasy does well in that department, because our peers you can do just about anything you can do in EQ there.
It's amazing. That's just a success story in itself, because that game was garbage when it first came out in 1.0.
I heard stories. I never played.
We played I was so excited. I'm a huge Final Fantasy fan, even though I've not finished the last several games until 15. But
he was so excited. Oh my gosh! All I heard about was fantasy, and I almost didn't go back because it was so bad to start with. I was like, nope, I'm not going back to that game. And then he talked me into it.
Yeah, man. Some friends of ours went back to it, and I tried it out after it was A Realm Reborn, and but we were deep in EQ2 at the time, so while I knew they had improved it, I just never went into it.
And then we had the mass flight to Final Fantasy and ESO.
Yeah.
So almost, I'd say at least 30% of the role players from EQ ended up in those two games.
Yeah, that's
at least they fled.
And that's all
to Final Fantasy and ESO.
Yeah.
So almost, I'd say at least 30% of the role players from EQ ended up in those two games.
Yeah, that's
at least they fled.
And that's all on the Daybreak games.
Their new X-Pack.
Yeah.
Their new X-Pack was just abysmal, and that was kind of the death knell for most people.
Yeah, it was not just for in the roleplay community already there was pretty small and shrinking, and when you can't keep those people, let alone anybody else in your game,
I would say what would you say? I would say at least half of role players really enjoy the game and level and raid and do all of that. So when a game sucks on that side, you lose anyone eventually that enjoys.
Yeah, and it's for anybody out there, I got an echo in here. This is our first episode, and we're still working out the kinks. I don't know why I've got an echo. We're narrowing it down to I'm live from within a coal mine, and unfortunately for Sib, it's not seeming to affect her, but for some reason, I don't know if it's because my voice is deeper than hers or just because I'm a loudmouth, but it seems to be echoing slightly. So I do apologize for that, and we'll
no
work
comment.
On that. Shut up, dude. But
I go with the loudmouth.
Yeah, I would too.
So all right, let's go. We'll go ahead. I mean, we've kind of been bouncing around it, so we'll just go ahead and hit a few more things about what we'll do in the show in the future, and then we'll hit our main topic, which will be, why do we RP and what good is it? Later on, we hope to do actually a news segment across pretty much every MMO. If there's something in a patch or something that comes out that is going to be useful, say new hairstyles, new emotes, EverQuest 2, if they ever miraculously give you the ability to sit in a chair, we'll actually go over in a chair. we'll actually go over that. And
well, they do. It's a really crappy way to sit in a chair. But yeah,
I meant physically sit into it, not fold your legs underneath you like you're a geisha.
Well, no, you can actually sit.
Did they change that?
Yeah, they did. You can sit. It's just most people cross their ankles and cross their arms like they're angry, like sit angry. It's and half the time, if you're sitting like that and somebody walks in the room that was outside of the area when you sat, you're standing.
Yeah. Yeah,
and it's
right.
just buggy. It's such a pain. That's why nobody really uses it very much. It's unreliable for role play, so a lot of role players just continue to do the kneel thing. Yeah.
Yeah, which ends up making you sit in the furniture, which is a whole other fun part.
Yeah.
Sit, stand.
But that's pretty true across every MMO I've ever been in, except for the ones that have you that make the chair physically appear when you sit. Those don't have that problem, except for the ones that have you that make the chair physically appear when you sit. Those don't have that problem, I've noticed. And maybe that's how they got their workaround. But if you're actually sitting on the architecture, you've got a pretty good chance of sinking into it when somebody walks up.
Yeah, there's plenty of games out there that do a lot of good stuff right, but they never get all of it right. So, but go ahead and, if there's something you want, after the news updates, if there's something you want to hear us talk about, it's RP friendly. If you got any ideas or anything that you want to hear us talk about, again, shoot us a line at rpmmoradio@gmail.com. So as for our main topic, we'll go ahead and go around and explain why you even bother with role playing. I mean, we go into, you've got to learn the lore of a game, the history, all that stuff, the creating some time-traveling loser from Earth, and you end up in a fantasy world, and that stuff is, I know people do it, and that's you're welcome to do it if you and your friends like it. It's not the best thing ever, and a lot of people don't go along with it, so you really typically want to steer away from that. So we'll go over, the good, the bad, the ugly, people you've met, as we've already kind of gone over, and how it improves games in between things like the patches and different and old content, new content. So we'll go ahead and start with you, Jazz. What you got?
Well, I RP because I am a improv theater person. I always enjoyed that, and in RP, I am mostly random RP. I do not script my RP. I don't plan it. I don't say, hey, is it okay if I do this and then this and then this, and you react like this and then I react like this? Is that okay? I really want to kind of plan it out first, but I don't do that. So I very much just kind of, my person walks up, sees you, talks. It's not planned. So my style of RP can be really hard for someone who enjoys scripted RP. And that's primarily all that's left, like, for example, in Guild Wars 2. Is people who plan everything out, because that's okay, and there's nothing wrong with that. But for somebody who does random RP, if you can't randomly walk up and you have to plan everything ahead of time before you can find a bunch of role players, it kind of loses something in the translation, and I couldn't do that anymore.
Yeah. Definitely more of a random, even when it comes to building a character, you definitely give yourself a loose outline and then kind of add the meat as you go along.
Yeah, and I roll out all my characters with dice, and I make a character sheet, and I know.
You definitely give yourself a loose outline and then kind of add the meat as you go along.
Yeah, and I roll out all my characters with dice, and I make a character sheet, and I know who my characters are, and then I do their profile so that I have this written out version of who they are, and then that helps me stay on target. I also roll dice for their choices and how they act and react.
Yeah, you pull a lot more of the D&D elements into it. I know I don't do that, except for every now and then I might do a dice roll just when I'm like, I don't know what to do. Roll dice.
And so I just do it because it helps me keep distance from my characters.
Yeah.
So that I don't invest too much of myself, particularly if I'm having a bad day. I don't want to make a choice for my character that's me, not her.
Yeah.
So, or him, depending on what I'm playing. But, so that causes, sometimes it causes conflict when you have different RP styles trying to RP in reality and fantasy.
Yes, and for those new to that, that is called mixing, which we'll definitely go into more.
And I would say for random RP in particular, drama / mixing, metagaming, that sort of thing, is probably the biggest problem with random RP, is that you can't really control when you run into someone like that.
Yeah, because I know regardless of what people say, when you really get into your roleplay too, there is after a while you get an emotional attachment. Like I know I've had roleplay that's made me sad. I've had roleplay that's made me even angry. But I mean, I don't like get personal with it. But like ooh, it's so frustrating. Like just whatever happened, or the bad guy's being a good bad guy, and it's like, oh, I hate that guy so much. I love the player. Player's cool. I hate their character so much.
Yes, and I don't see anything wrong with that. When you go to a theater, when you're in theater and you're up there and you're that person, you feel their sadness. In theater and you're up there and you're that person, you feel their sadness. You push it out so that you can exude that character. You become that character in many ways. And you ask, okay, what is this person feeling so that I can feel that? So it's not, I don't consider that innately mixing, because I know this is not me. But, if you watch a sad movie, don't you get teary?
Yeah, you get teary.
I mean,
yeah.
So to me, that's all it is.
Yeah, mixing is when is far more. That's where it starts. It can start there. You could use that as definitely as a good thing, but it starts there, and then if you start getting, some people get clingy, some people get really angry, and when they get angry enough that the insults in character are fine. I've got some great insults on people that we've role played in the past. What's his face? The vampire guy.
Tilder
and I, our guy. Tilder and I, in character, we have said horrible things to each other.
Yes.
And Tilder is a vampire from EverQuest 2, which in that lore is acceptable, not in other things, and he doesn't sparkle.
Yes.
But out of character, he's an awesome guy. We've always gotten along. And it never bleeds over. But there are those times for some people when it turns into mixing is when the insults in the character translate over to,
Well, there are two types, actually, because you have the people who, honestly, I think can't tell the difference between themselves and their characters. There are those people, and it's not, I don't want to take it away by saying it's not their fault, but it's almost, they can't help it. It's just what they do. Yeah. But then you have people who take it personally that you're picking on their character. They don't feel you're picking on them, but they get angry because you're picking on their character, kind of like a little brother or a sister.
When somebody's like, when the thing that really gets people going a lot of times is when you're dismissive, which unfortunately in real life too, there's plenty of people that will dismiss you no matter what you're doing.
Well, yeah.
I've graduated with, what's the old joke? You can't pick on him. He knows 7 different languages. Okay, so he's an idiot in 7 different languages. Congratulations. I don't care. There's always that guy that's like, that doesn't care what you know or where you've been.
Yeah.
But, yeah, it's definitely, we'll go ahead and get probably more into that. That's enough to be a whole episode right there on mixing.
Well, yeah.
And how to avoid it. But go ahead. Let's go ahead and hit up Sib. So why do you role play? What do you get out of it? What do you love?
I love using my imagination. I mean, it's fun to go into a game and escape, basically. Get to be somebody else.
What do you get out of it? What do you love?
I love using my imagination. I mean, it's fun to go into a game and escape, basically. Get to be somebody else. But also you have to be careful because, like, the mixing thing, you can't, like, I don't know how to explain it. You can't be that person, but you can be that person.
Yeah, you don't want to pour too much of yourself into your character, because then that's where you start taking things personally. You gotta kind of make a character just loosely based on stuff.
But I like to meet the people in the RP or the roleplay community. Everyone's so far has been super nice and welcoming, and it's just, I don't know. I feel like it's a home for me. I've never been an outgoing person. I've never been like, here, maybe a year and a half ago.
Sounds about right, yeah.
And that was terrifying. I never in my real life would have done anything like that. But it's fun, and it's an escape. I get to go in there and do that and have fun with it, and it lets me be creative. Another thing I love to do is write, which never really did much writing until I started the RPM, and now Passion's talked me into doing stories. And I love to read the stories. Like you said, it's just a very welcoming community. So I guess that's my answer.
Yeah, that works just fine. I'll go ahead and hit me up. The reason I've done it, first time I started it was actually back in Star Wars Galaxies, and I'm a huge Star Wars Galaxies, and I'm a huge Star Wars fan. Always have been, actually. Well, I was a kid, but I didn't really get into it until they did the re-releases in the late 90s. Then I really got way into it. It was kind of pathetic and sad. Still is, won't lie. But I absolutely adore Star Wars. I love the world and the universe that they've created there. So that was the first one I did. And then, of course, I was a Terrace Kasi Master, which unfortunately died with the dreaded NGU. And after that, they went to a class-based system instead of all the other stuff. So, and then before that, I had played EverQuest, but EverQuest 1, but I never role-played in that. I just played that as an MMO. That was it. I just played it for what it was. Had a lot of great memories, a lot of fun in that game. It was relentless. But then when EverQuest 2 came around, I still loved the world of Norath, but I had the role-playing element under my belt. That's when I started role-playing in there, and I've just something I always like creating. Believe it or not, I'm not actually a very cool person in real life. I think we all have that element of, things we would like to be, but, you see things, as growing up as a kid, I was scrawny. I graduated from high school at 110 pounds. That, however, is no longer a problem. Sib's love is fattening.
Yeah. As everyone has told us, my love is fattening, right?
Yes, and by everybody, she means me. But, so I always like playing the kind of edgier, I guess, what's the term I've heard is the...
You like playing the fallen hero.
Yeah, I definitely like that fallen hero kind of thing. That's what my character in EverQuest 2, Xanis, was. He was a bad guy, and I took a lot of inspiration. Funny enough, at the time, I was a lot of inspiration from his kind of backstory, so I made a character that was bad, meant to be good. But I love that conflict of personal conflict inside of a character. I love when characters grow. The Xanis that I created back, even when I first met Jazz, compared to the one that I killed off towards the end, almost a decade later, totally different characters. They same name, all that, but nowhere. So much stuff had happened. I loved the transition and the follow through of his story. Interacting with other people, seeing how their characters changed and progressed. I love the storytelling elements of it. That's just one of those things I've always enjoyed. Our characters, when we first got together and met, the very first, the way Jazz and I first met. So we go ahead and just tell this story because it's a good.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, go for it.
Yeah, back in EverQuest 2 at those times, there was a place called the. Back in EverQuest 2 at those times, there was a place called the Blood Haze, which is unfortunately no longer. It's now a parking lot, actually. They literally tore it down.
They literally did.
In EverQuest and built a parking lot. But at the time, we were, I don't even remember, my character was in the city of Freeport, bad guy city. And he was a good
You were
guy.
there working on the children storyline.
Some children thing, yeah. And he was a monk. I was a monk, playing a good guy, trying to redeem himself, blah, blah, blah. And I met Jazz in there, and the very first
My
time...
character was not a good person.
No, and just like Jazz. But one of the very first things we did was she invited him back to the in-room, and I'm when it comes to it, as Sib will tell you, I am completely clueless when it comes to being flirted with. Sybil, tell you, I am completely clueless when it comes to being flirted with, unless it's like I'm directly flirting with you.
He so is. I mean, it is hilarious to watch him. I'm like, that person was totally flirting with you, and he's like, no, they weren't. And I'm like, they were feeding you chocolate.
I know, he was so clueless.
I know, it's like, it's cute. It's really cute.
Yeah, well, luckily
I know, I was surprised when, after being completely clueless, your character still came to her in-room, but I think he thought that she was a spy or something and was going to get information out of her. That. Yeah. So it was.
She tried to seduce him because she's a harpy.
Mm-hmm.
And,
yeah, she is a harpy.
But I, at the time, I had never even considered such a thing in roleplay. I was still for all my years in, year or two in Star Wars Galaxies, that stuff just never came up.
But we had a conversation OOC, and I was like, that's fine.
Yeah.
I don't need to do this. This is just something that the character does. I don't get anything out of it. It's just something that she does. Mm-hmm. She feeds off of the energy. She's kind of a succubus sort of thing going on there. So I was like, it doesn't have to happen ever, but was definitely intrigued because he told her no, and that was hilarious.
Yeah, I told a character telling her no, which honestly, when it comes to, and we'll go ahead and say it, the dreaded ERP, dun dun dun, which we'll get into at other times. Don't worry, this will be kid friendly. We'll all be good here. Can you say spank me like a bad puppy? Sure.
Okay.
You
But you seriously could do an entire radio show in that voice, and I don't think I could breathe by the end of it. But anyway.
It's a beautiful day in the neighborhood. But, so that was how we met. I was like, oh, well, I guess we'll probably never talk again. And I'll be darned, it's been, 12 years later. We're still good friends. She's...
Yeah.
We've life's ups and downs. We've always, been there for each other as friends, and we've never actually once met each other face to face.
Yet. I'm going to work on it this summer, I swear to God, but it never seems to work out.
No, it doesn't. But
you live in Oklahoma, I live in Iowa. That makes it a little hard.
Yeah, that's like that's like 2 whole countries away.
It feels like it, yeah.
But she's got kids, we've got kids, so that kind of happens. But so that's pretty much why I do it. I love the interactions with the characters. I love seeing what other people have come up with, and that's why I bother doing it. So let's go. And now there's apparently. So let's go. And now there's apparently. Something Jazz had told me was that even her kids are interested in things like role-playing, but even in games that I had never considered, like, what was you told me? Was it Minecraft?
Minecraft.
Yeah.
And Minecraft. I was blown away because, I don't have those conversations with my kids. A couple of times they came in and they're like, what are you doing? Because I wasn't actually playing the game. And I had explained about role-play, but I didn't go into any great detail.
As far as they're concerned, it's you sitting in the same spot for 2.5 hours just typing into a screen.
Right.
Like, how is that a video game, right?
And I've told them, I'm talking to my friends. That's how I originally went into it, and then I eventually explained myself when they got a little older. But I walked in one day, and I was like, they're RPing over voice.
Yeah, and that's just so alien to me.
And I was mad because I thought they were talking to their friends that way.
I have to hear that.
He was being a villain, and so he was like, I'm going to kill your parents, and he was swearing, and he was just being awful. And this was not my son. He doesn't talk to people like that. And so I lost my shit.
You're a terrible, I don't want to judge you. I'm just saying you're a terrible parent. You've already raised a super villain. Congratulations.
Oh, I know, right? Villain. And so he was like, finally, he puts pause on, not pause, but mutes his mic. And he's like, Mom, they're all laughing at me. Stop it. And I was like, oh, God. It's this complete shift, right? And I'm like, what are you doing? He's like, I'm role-playing God. And I'm pretty sure my face was absolutely priceless because my, at the time, 10-year-old was snickering off to the side. And I just looked at him, and he immediately, of course, stopped snickering and just looked angelic. And I stomped off, muttering about children. But it was to the side. And I just looked at him, and he immediately, of course, stopped snickering and just looked angelic. And I stomped off, muttering about children. But it was very funny because he still role plays in games. Yeah, usually so over voice. He doesn't type, which just messes with my head. But
talk about. Cause I'll be honest, I don't think I have. That I don't know if that's a childlike thing, because I don't know if I'd have the self-confidence in my own self. And here we are doing an online podcast and a live show to actually...
It's got to be a child thing. I mean, because you think back when we were kids, and like you and Joe's both said, we played Cowboys and Indians.
And we pretended, and we were that person, and we were talking and walking and acting like them. So... I guess for me, it was
villain voice.
Yeah,
I can't do voices as good as Ashton, but
yeah, he's awesome. Children do, by the way, that whole evil laugh thing. He laughs like that. I'll hear him laughing now, and I'll be like, "Oh, he must be role playing." Okay, and I don't go in there anymore. But I will never forget that first time when I thought I was going to have to smack him for the first time in his life, and instead he was like, God.
Yeah, and that just goes into what our main topic is Minecraft is already. If you don't know what Minecraft is, turn off your computer. You're done with the internet. Okay, but you can do any and everything in that game, and the fact that while you can build whatever you want, they're still finding enjoyment in like where you're at. You're not exactly in a neighborhood full of children where they can just go outside and play and do pretend like we used to do when we were growing up.
And it's not safe either in the area that I live. So that's not even a possibility.
Yeah, but they've found a way.
Yeah, the kids are still pretending.
Yeah, they've found a way online to use their imaginations and to create their own scenarios, and just like we do. I mean, we base our stuff off of, that was a neat TV show. I like the premise of that in a movie. No idea really is original idea anymore, as they say. So, and kids...
Well, that's one thing you learn in art school, too, is they tell you, I know you think that your art is amazing, but there is nothing new under the sun. It is just redone and
you're just rearranging the blocks and knocking them over again.
Right. So keep in mind. And with my kids, I think that's even more obvious because they're role-playing in areas I never would have thought of. And they're still finding a way to do it. And like my 6-year-old, when he's outside sword fighting and yes, they sword fight. Foam swords.
That's cool.
Foam swords. I won't let them do it inside. Yeah, well, they would if they could. I'm not paying $60 for a pseudo lightsaber.
Oh, no,
so they use foam swords.
Ooh, yeah, you're talking about the expensive ones that light up and do the sound effect. No.
Yeah,
not at
no
that
way.
age. Trust me.
No. But he's 6, and he will start talking and he's role playing the character from some, I don't honestly know, anime or whatever. But he becomes this person, and he's using like lingo for PvPing in some of those games where you just one-on-one each other.
Yeah, and that's amazing, and that's one of those things we want to do here, because, I mean, obviously we're not going to be role-playing over voice chat in Minecraft, but for anybody out there, if you've been playing MMOs, or you're interested in it, or you've ever kind of been interested in role-play, it adds something to the experience that you just can't get. The game itself, they're a lot of fun. Like if I was playing Fantasy 14 right now, the game itself will keep me going for probably several more months, and up to a year, or more, because there is an expansion coming out this summer. But the roleplay experiences itself adds so much depth to it. It gives you a reason to want to come back. It gives you a reason to do something else, so that it extends. Developers can only put out so much at one time. There's only so much money, so much time in a day, so much content that can be done, without it being crazy grindy. Yeah, I'm looking at you, Aeon.
God, that was a horribly grindy game.
Black Desert Online. But that there's just so much more that it adds to it. That's the reason we want to do it. So if you're looking to get into roleplay, it is very intimidating. I can understand that. I remember Sib, she was, like she said, she was crazy intimidated by it. But for the most part, there's always, one asshole in the bunch. But for the most part, people are really understanding. They'll teach you what to do. They'll teach you the things like the difference between in character and out of character. In character being when you're speaking or emoting as the character within that world, and out of character when you're talking for yourself. And using parentheses to do the out of character stuff,
or something.
Yeah. Typically, it's parentheses.
Yeah.
I remember when I first started, I would tell people, "Hey, I'm new to this. I don't really quite know what I'm doing," and everyone was so helpful. And if I said or if I typed something wrong, they'd be like, "Oh, you can't do that," but they would explain to me why. I mean, it was really easy once I actually started going. Well, also when I was a slow typer, it drove me nuts. So, but no, if you just try, it gets with each. Well, also when I was a slow typer, it drove me nuts. So, but no, if you just try, it gets with each time you do try, it gets a lot easier.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, with a lot of things, it's putting yourself out there. Sometimes it can be a little more difficult. You got to be patient. If the first time you go into, we'll just say a tavern, we'll do random MMO tavern number 43. You go in there, you emote. If nobody bites, don't take it personally. It happens. They've either already got stuff going on. Depending on how busy it is, they may not have even seen it. That's another.
Yeah,
that's
because
one of those
a lot of people read as slow as they type.
Mm-hmm.
So it is important to understand that when you are role playing, there's a good chance that 75% of the people in that room didn't even see what you wrote.
Yeah, I know when I do it in a heavy tavern, if I'm looking specifically for the.
They're probably just as nervous as you are sometimes. Be new like you, and not really sure if you're talking to them or you're talking to somebody else.
Mm-hmm.
They don't know how to approach you. So there's a lot of factors.
Yeah,
there
and
is.
Never be afraid. Almost every game has it. Never be afraid if you threw something out there and you think somebody missed it. Never be afraid to throw them a tell and be like, hey, I'm new and I'm interested in role playing. Do you mind if I come up to your character? Give them a heads up, because usually when you send them a tell, it does little bloop bloop kind of a thing, and it gives them an audio cue and also a different colored text. It's a lot harder to miss a tell than as long as you're staring at your screen that it is the text scroll of 1,000 different people talking all at the same time.
I've noticed in Final Fantasy too, they have the little bio thing that next to the person's name, and it usually almost all of them I've read, and it usually almost all of them I've read say, send me a tell, They do. They're more than welcome to RP with you. Just shoot them a tell. Say, hey, I want to talk to you.
Yep. And that's the, it just don't get disheartened. It's a lot of times it's not anything that you're doing. It's not anything the other person's doing. It could just be a series of, random events that just made it so that they didn't have it. Could be that, if you're going to be nervous, I understand that, things like if you're a slow typer, you're putting yourself out there. It's kind of like, Sib always got, and still probably gets nervous anytime she writes a story or something and she posts it online.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I do.
And that's basically what you're doing as role-playing, is you're sitting there and you're writing a story with a dozen other people all at the same time. It's this group writing, and you group writing, and you just got to be patient with it. Put yourself out there, hope for the best. Sometimes there's also things like if you're make sure you're on a roleplay server. Not all of them have an official server. EverQuest does. World of Warcraft, I think when I looked, has like 3 or 4. Some of them PvP, some of them not. But then there's games like Final Fantasy. The unofficial roleplay server is Balmung. And you wouldn't know that without having done a Google search.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of personal websites that people put up that kind of turn into a community. there used to be several on EverQuest. I know the one for Final Fantasy is like Heidelin Role Players, if I'm remembering right. I just click on it. It's like a cell phone number. I just click on it now. I don't actually pay attention. Yeah, Heidelin Role Players.
Yeah.
Shout out Heidelin. What's going on, baby?
Was I say, should we spell it?
Yeah, Google it, because I don't know how to spell it.
I've got it right here on my screen. So.
But, you go to a resource like that, there's almost all of them out there. And you can, let people know if you're stumped on what to do for your character because you don't know the lore. Ask questions. I knew the lore of EverQuest 2, and I'm learning lore of Final Fantasy very well. I love lore. It's like I know Star Wars back even before half of it got retconned when Disney bought it out. Even though they're doing a great job, keep it up, Disney. All those Jason and Janas no longer exist, much too. Yeah,
let's not talk about that.
Yeah, there it is. But it's just ask questions. They say a stupid question is an unasked one. I say that's not true. You can still ask a stupid question, but still give it a shot anyway.
Roleplay richer and more fun for you. I'll tell a story about one of the guys that I knew that we roleplayed with. You remember Gregor? When he first started roleplaying with my group, we had been around for about a year and a half, and he'd kind of been on the outside looking in the sense that he'd seen us around, and he knew we had all this stuff going on, but he didn't know much about us. And when he joined, he was very new. He typed very slow, and he asked a lot of questions, which was good. But one of the things that he didn't ask about was the language we were speaking. Because remember, we would use Drow as ancient Tyrdal.
As the Tyrdal,
and as the Tyrdal language, the old Tyrdal language, not the current one, but the old one. So older people could use it to speak to each other, and we used a translator in order to do that. A lot of games do that, not the current one, but the old one. So older people could use it to speak to each other, and we used a translator in order to do that. A lot of games do that. Lord of the Rings they use actual Elven, and they use translators to talk back and forth in Elven. Well, he thought we were talking like French.
Oh no! I love it. That's funny.
I know. He thought it was French, and he never asked about it. He thought he'd look stupid, so he never asked what language we were speaking. And when he finally told me he said he finally asked somebody outside the guild. He said a phrase. He says, "Do you know what language that is?" And the guy was like, "It's Drow." And he was like, "What?"
Dark Elf. Oh my God, he's such a nerd. He didn't know it wasn't French. It was Drow.
I can understand if you don't know any languages.
That's true.
It would have sounded very odd.
And you're typing them out, not speaking them. So I'm sure if he heard it spoken, he'd be like, "Oh yeah, that's not French."
Yeah.
I would have been him because I would have been like, "Oh my God, what are they speaking?" Luckily I have Ashen that sits right behind me. That I'm always like, "What are they doing? What's the circle and the little slash? What's that mean?"
It's
a wave.
It's a wave, yeah.
I'm like, I don't know what they're doing, but they're making little funny things. I don't know.
Yeah. So when I met him in Washington, he finally told me, and I pretty much laughed at him for the next 2 hours.
Yeah, you're telling me to be nice. I didn't laugh at his face.
I did. Every time I'd look at him and I'd say like Vendui, and then I'd just crack up. And he's like, "Are you done? Are you done yet?" I'm like, No, I can't stop. Yeah, it was just really funny.
Saying it right is Gros Croissant, which is Fatty Boy.
That's
completely unrelated to everything, but a friend I knew in high school do French, and that's what they told me how to say things.
I thought croissant was a bready thing.
No, it's like croissant, not croissant.
Right,
I don't know.
You need to say croissant and add the ho ho ho.
Ho ho.
Yeah.
Oui, let us move on now from our French
But it was
way.
very funny, and I told him, I said, "Why in the world didn't you just ask us?
Yeah.
We knew you were new. And he's like, I didn't want to look stupid." And I'm like,
"Well, how'd that work out for you?"
Yeah. And I was like, well, how'd that go? And he was like, shut up. And I'm like,
this is why you don't have any friends.
I know, it is, really, because I'm a horrible person when it comes to that stuff. I can't stop myself. So...
We love you, Jess.
And I was like, well, how'd that go? And he was like, shut up. And I'm like,
this is why you don't have any friends.
I know, it is, really, because I'm a horrible person when it comes to that stuff. I can't stop myself. So...
We love you, Jess.
I know, thank you.
But all right, so that's kind of the basics of it. What we'll be hitting on. That's why we do it. It's fun. It's entertaining.
And social.
And it's
incredibly social.
It's very social. And it's honestly I don't want to be all financial with you. It's the cheapest fucking form of entertainment you're gonna get for $15 a month.
Serious.
You pay 50. We're averaging it out. I know there's free to play games. Shut up. Free to $15 a month, you get dozens of hours. If you go to a movie, you can buy one ticket depending on where you live for $15. Crazy end of the spectrum, I guess you could say. Not compared to a lot of role players, but compared to some. We do. If you've ever seen. I love you, Jazz, but if you've ever gone to one of Jazz's websites, the questionnaire form makes the government go, damn!
Hey, I made it smaller. I got rid of a whole bunch of questions.
The IRS is like, holy shit, we should hire her. She's asking things that I never would have even thought. But,
I know, they're pretty bad. But you should know that my new job with all of my paperwork, I do great at it. Yeah, I know, you're probably not shocked.
Right? You're like Hermes from Futurama. I love filling out forms, man.
Yeah, seriously.
But we write up background stories. We do it not only in our head. We do journals. We'll write out journals and things like that. You can. And you're like Hermes from Futurama. I love filling out forms, man.
Yeah, seriously.
But we write up background stories. We do it not only in our head. We do journals. We'll write out journals and things like that. You can, and it's fun, but that's fun for us. It may not be fun for you. So you can easily do it all in your head and just type out everything in the game.
Hey, I just wanted to throw out too on the paying, the reasonable cost to play the games. There's a lot of games that are free to play.
That's true. There are.
Yeah, you buy and play, and free to play, and free to buy, and
Guild Wars 2, Black Desert Online, EverQuest even. You can really actually, if all you want to do is go into EverQuest 2 and roleplay, you can literally just, as far as I know, you can just download it, right, Jazz?
Yeah, I think so.
It's a lot of the content is, and things are gated behind that in.
Oh yeah, totally. I know ESO is you buy the game and then it can be free.
Yeah, it's buy to play. Yeah, which is also a great model. It's really not bad.
Guild Wars 2 is the same way. You buy the game and then you play for free.
Mm-hmm.
They don't offer a sub, I don't think, Guild Wars. I think it is just free to play.
No, yeah. There's this buy to play. You just buy the game and then they have a lot of cash shop or microtransactions, which is unfortunately the way of MMOs these days. A lot of them.
Yeah.
Black Desert.
And I pay a sub.
Offender, but...
Yeah, I pay a sub for ESO and for Final Fantasy, but I wouldn't have to for ESO if I didn't want to.
Mm-hmm.
So I can still
you're
play
actively
it.
Playing in that one, the game itself, not just RP. It makes sense to do that.
Oh yeah, because you get this bag to collect all of your harvestables. It's unlimited, and it's totally worth it.
I remember that. That's right.
It's worth $15 a month just.
We're gonna start winding down the show. We're gonna try to keep all the shows between an hour and a half. We're now at the 1 hour mark. We made it a whole hour, and actually totally.
It wasn't even hard.
Yeah. No, it was actually a lot of fun. But so if you got any questions, ouch, sorry, elbow just shocked me. Just throw us an email at rpmmoradio@gmail.com. If you like what you hear, go ahead and hit the the like button there or something on Twitch. We also have a Facebook page. You can go there and like us. It'll give you updates on when we're going to do our next episode. We're going to try to keep it about every 2 weeks. Some of we all three of us work, and I know Jazz's schedule is kind of in flux right now. And always in flux, really. But
it's always in flux.
but so we may not always do them on Sundays, but we'll try to always give you about a week's notice before we do the next one. And always in flux, really. But
it's always in flux.
but so we may not always do them on Sundays, but we'll try to always give you about a week's notice before we do the next one.
Also, Jess has her email up there.
Oh, yeah, well, that's.
I didn't know if we wanted to.
That was actually for us to read emails from people when other people start emailing them in.
Well, I didn't know if they could see that or not.
No, only we can. You're giving it. She's giving you some behind the scenes info. That's all right.
Sorry. Hey, you said ask questions.
Yeah, and I didn't say they were all great.
See, you can hit him because you're right there.
Yeah,
so.
I know. I see what I could
eventually
throw something. My dice.
Yeah, you're fuzzy. Wow,
No.
You throw like a girl. Holy cow.
I am a girl.
So, you guys got anything last things you want to throw out there before we say our goodbyes? All right. Well, we'll go ahead and wrap up the show. We'll have this on a podcast. We'll put it on Podbeam eventually. We're hoping to have it up on iTunes and the Google Play, so that you can actually do this. This is, even though we're doing it live, this is first and foremost going to be a podcast, and everything in the format of that, we just like to do it live. We leave in our mistakes and our flubs, and unfortunately the echo thing, if that's still in there, I actually can't hear that myself, but I think I know what the problem for that is. I just have to figure out how to fix it. So I apologize if that's been annoying you for the last hour. So on behalf of everybody here at RPMMORadio, the thoughts and opinions. Thank you for tuning in with us today. And like I said, go ahead and visit us at facebook.com/RPMMORadio